Welcome to the Unofficial Hobby Hangout. Hello, people. Sadly, Jerry isn't feeling too well and had a lie down. And since we had some very recent Star Wars news, I called in Ralph, who is joining us today. Hello, Ralph.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Tim.
So, Fantasy Flight yesterday suddenly announced that they are shifting all Star Wars Miniatures IP to... better now? To Atomic Mass Games, which also is a daughter company of Asmodee, as we may know. Yeah, what's your thought on that?
As I said before we came on, I'm sort of a glass half full. I'm quietly optimistic, but that's just because I want to be optimistic when things like this happen more than anything. So I think we'll just wait and see, and but I'm hoping that it does have a positive impact upon some of the issues that we seem to be having. But part of the issues I think we're having with, especially with distribution, is more to do with COVID than anything really, especially currently.
Yeah, I tried. So they did a press release and mentioned mainly two names. This is Simone Elliott, which has been with FFG for some time and has been doing the licensing for all of Asmodee, which isn't a small feat, and a certain William Schick, who, if I'm correct on this, founded Privateer Press back in 2008.
So it's I think it's an interesting move because it sounds like that the Asmodee are not so much breaking up FFG, but seem to be moving the specialists under specialist houses. So we know the role-playing stuff's being moved. We know now miniature gaming's being moved. Does that then now mean that FFG itself is just going to go back to its original core gaming, which was board games and card games?
Oh, and they also moved their gaming accessories. If you remember, they had a line of protective card sleeves that has been sourced out into a new daughter company at the start of this year, if I remember correctly.
And then there was the apps and stuff as well, and all of that.
Yeah, Asmodee Digital.
Yeah, that sort of disappeared, didn't it? So is it now Asmodee, because they were taken over by that hedge fund, just realigning the business? And that's what it seems to be. A lot of it seems to be sort of business realignment.
I don't think that's directly a result of the hedge fund takeover, because to be brutally honest, before Asmodee got the behemoth in the board game sector it is now, the original was already a, let's put it slightly, a greedy bunch of buy all.
Yeah, they were, shall we say, the snapping up things left and right, weren't they, before the sort of...
Yeah, there are several companies that have been gobbled up and injected into their system and then rebranded as Asmodee something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and currently I think if, as the press release states, that there are people are going over to Atomic Mass Games, if the creative side is going over there with them, I think we really do have a chance of improvement on this. Mm-hmm. But they are not very open with much information currently.
No, there's not a lot. There's not a lot of information out there. It's just, we know FFG yesterday released the press release, which you've got on screen, and then today, just before we sort of came up earlier on, Atomic Mass released a press release as well.
Yeah, the press release that's on screen now, that's the one on the Atomic Mass site. So FFG /Asmodee USA /Atomic Mass Games have simultaneously released this press release. And today, as you just have shown me, there's a FAQ of sorts, or a short what will be. I don't know why they have put this on a day later.
Yeah.
But
I'm wondering if they released this today because they saw possibly what the community was saying. I wonder if the community sort of, when this was announced yesterday, especially in the US, hit the forums going, what's going to happen, what's going to happen, what's happening this, what happened that. We've invested money into it. We've invested money in buying armies, and we've got our rules. What's going to happen with our armies? And I'm wondering if that's why they've quickly released this one, where they state, by the looks of it, and I've just seen what Panzer Kaput said, and I don't think they will change it to a Marvel-style game.
No, I don't think either. I think, at least for the short to mid-term foreseeable future, they would simply ruin the game if they would do too drastic changes. We might see a change in game of sorts, maybe a rules revision, perhaps a new core set as well. Middle next year, when Clone Wars set and base set have reached equilibrium in regards of what units are released for each set.
Yeah,
I'm really hoping, as you, Panzer, that they don't do too much, but maybe a rule book re-release with implementations of the rules reference guide they currently have. So simply let's say a revised rule book, which is basically the same that you currently get, but for new players they get the complete package.
Yeah, sort of almost like a third edition, almost. And if you think about it, even if it is a living rule book, isn't it? It does.
Yeah, I don't think we can speak on revisions now, because they simply have released another core set with the Clone Wars, which was still basically the new one.
Yeah, I've got it here. It was when Clone Wars came out. I think it was the release at the same time as they did that rules update, and I think that's what's in the rule book. And I know that they've put more and more out because they've revised things, especially after the flying base information and stuff came out and things. Because at the time, the Clone Wars rule set didn't have the flying base information in. And that sort of turned up with the first round of flying bases, which were the ARC Troopers and then the Mandalorians Resistance.
Yeah. Speaking of Mandalorians, I really hope they, at some point in the future, bring the Mandalorian and all the other sidekicks of the show somehow into the game.
I think now, because with Atomic Mass, and it depends within Atomic Mass, and I'm wondering if it is the same person who's negotiated the license with Disney for the Marvel that, and I'm assuming that was a separate negotiation, because FFG would have negotiated with I'm assuming Disney for the Star Wars license, because it wouldn't have been a bundle, shall we say. Disney wouldn't do that. The mouse is the overlord of everything. So I'm wondering if now, because they have that solid relationship and they're moving people from FFG into Atomic Mass, that we will see maybe them starting to branch out more. I know I'll probably get stoned for this, but we may see First Order and Resistance sets coming.
Yeah, that's the thing I was contemplating a lot of when they first showed off the Clone Wars set, that they started with the original trilogy, then went prequel trilogy, and the next logical step would be a sequel trilogy core set, even though they were subpar movie-wise.
Yeah. But then that opens up all of those characters. So, a Captain Phasma, which would be an interesting and mini, especially to paint because of that.
It would be a pain in the ass to paint.
Yes, trying to get the shine. It'll be exactly the same trying to do the Mandalorian in his Beskar, trying to get that silver shine on.
Well, he's a dull silver that isn't shiny. So you can get away as the same as with C-3PO, who is occasionally shiny golden, but mostly dirty golden.
Yeah. The one I'd be interested for them to do would be, because we've had Clan Ren as the Mandalorian set, is that Mandalorian set, or them to adapt the rules so that set could be used within the Clone Wars.
Yeah, it's similar to the AT-RT they used
Yeah,
for the Clone Wars. What I was thinking is they could do, or they could start to implement units that aren't with any allegiance, more or less, can be hired for any side of the table. So you
yeah,
could get away with a generic release of Mandalorian warriors, and if you are so inclined to paint them up like the Mandalorian and the other clans from the Mandalorian TV series, you would still have a stat card that says simply Mandalorian
yeah.
with these.
I know the community has been asking for there was talk on the community, especially on Facebook, for a third faction. Where we've got Empire, Rebels, or CIS or Republic, and
Yes,
people have been
we
asking
need
for.
Javas. Definitely, we need Javas and the giant sandcrawler.
But I was thinking more of the way they did it with X-wing, because you got the Empire and the First Order. You had the Rebels Resistance, didn't you? And was it Scum and Villainy?
Yes, Scum and Villainy was the third faction and the fifth faction that got released on the first edition. And
Yeah,
with second edition, they introduced the prequel armies as a single item.
yeah. So I'm wondering if that would be one way to do it. Would be like a Scum and Villainy set. But if they were going to do a Scum and Villainy set, I think they may. Well, they haven't shot themselves in the foot per se, but I think the leader for the Scum and Villainy you could do, which leads off from what we know within sort of the TV series and the movies, would be you could have a version of Darth Maul, because we know Maul became the leader of a crime syndicate.
Yeah, and I don't think they've shot themselves too far
No.
in the foot, because even on X-Wing, they started very early with a Boba Fett Slave One ship, which had its allegiance to the Empire, which
Right.
of course is a bit weird when he's clearly a bounty hunter. But later on the releases, he got pushed over to the bounty hunter. So I could see them actually do a re-release of Boba Fett, giving him a second card,
Hmm.
and maybe using what do we already have from Scum and Villainy? We have Boba Fett. We have
Technically,
the Trandoshan. What's his
yeah,
face?
Bosk.
Bosk. And the recent one was the pirate captain and the
No, it's Cad Bane.
Cat Bane. Yes, so
So
we
the other
already
one.
have four very distinct figures for a Scum and Villainy faction. So we basically would only need some henchmen and
Yeah,
maybe some weird vehicles. Would also could be reused from Rebels and Empire sides, because basically they just nick stuff.
yeah. So I mean, so then you could have, say, a unit of Gamorreans.
Yeah, Scum and Villainy could basically become for Legion what is Orcs for 40k, and just loot the shit out of every
Yeah,
other faction.
yeah. I mean, that would be one way of doing it. Whether they do that or not is another way. Yeah, doing a Hundo Okada mini might be an interesting one as well, from Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah,
So it's an interesting one. But the thing is, as well, is, do they now then, because we've seen Atomic Mass do large pieces of scenery, so things like the dump truck and things like that,
mm,
are we then now going to see them possibly look at doing larger vehicles?
I don't think so.
So we know that.
Simply because most uh, tournament players tend to use a fuck ton of terrain, and
Yeah,
as it is, it's difficult to use vehicles on tournaments, because the tables, at least in my neck of the world, is completely blown to pieces if you get
yeah,
stuck between houses.
yeah. Tauros, it's a Gamorrean god, the pig god. that you saw in The Mandalorian. They were the ones that were in Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi.
Though those in Jabba's palace had definitely put on more weight than the two fighters.
Yes, they look slightly different within that one, didn't they? But what's interesting in that one, and we were quickly talking about that before we started with Tim, which was the bottom entry, where they talk about the possibility of more or additional miniature games with Star Wars. Which is at the very bottom of the atomic mass.
We all think of new ones, Will, and I have talked a lot about how to create a cool new miniatures game that will excite fans. Yeah.
Yeah, now we were talking and we were sort of speculating what we would like, and I think we both sort of came to the same agreement of an
epic Star Wars game with 10 or 6mm miniatures. I think that would be awesome.
Because then you could bring vehicles in like the AT-AT, the LA-AT. You know, you could have
you could go totally mental on it, and especially at that scale, I don't think you have the need of any special characters as a single unit. You could have a leading unit with, let's say, as an example, Darth Vader with 10 stormtroopers is a command unit, and you've got 6 more bases with 10 stormtroopers on it, just swarming the place.
Yeah, and or you know, from my perspective, because I like the Clone Wars set, so you could have, you know, Kenobi or Yoda leading a small detachment of clones, or you could have Rex, you know, leading a detachment.
All the big fights from every movie that is ground based could be reenacted easily.
You could even then bring in things like the TIE, as part of them, have TIE bombers. Or the A-Wing as bombing run vehicles.
Yeah, you know? Or the at Clone Wars, the Republic dropships.
Yeah, the LAAT, and you could have them then having the LAAT that drops off the walkers, drops off the AT-TE that you see dropping off. So you have those almost looks like a cargo carrier dropping them off.
Dutch just mentioned 6mm Ewoks. Oh God, don't let Ben see those. I think he would go mental on them.
6mm Ewoks. Yeah, it's a little bit of brown paint, and that's it, isn't it?
If you can make out that there's fur that is at a 6mm Ewok, you really are at an astounding scale of detail.
Yeah, I mean, there was back in, and I had this, and I can't remember if it was Airfix, but back in, it must have been the mid 80s, there was technically a 6mm diorama, which was the Battle of Hoth, and you got 3 AT-ATs, you got a load of miniatures, really small, so you got rebels on tauntauns and stuff, and you got snowtroopers as well. And it was, you know, you put it together, and one of the AT-ATs was damaged. I'll see if I can find it, and it was that sort of really miniature scale, because I saw just before Legion came out, somebody had managed to grab. I think you were right, Panzer, but I think it was Revell.
I think he's right on this too. I know the set now. Now he mentions Revell. I think this was really small. The smallest miniatures I ever had in my greedy little hands were the Micro Machines, and those are roughly 10mm.
Yeah, I mean, I've got sitting on the shelf, which Jerry has some as well, as I've got 3 boxes of the original West End Games metal miniatures, which were the 25mm.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Star Wars, I got the Stormtrooper set, I got the Heroes of the Rebellion, so that was Luke and Han and everybody, and I managed to pick up the what was called the Tatooine Manhunt set, which was the bounty hunter set that they did, because it was based around the scenario of the adventure that they did, that West End Games did with the same name.
Coming back to our today's topic, the shifting from FFG to AMG, great acronyms by the way. I'm now curious if they are. I think they will stay with Legion as it is right now, because that thing is selling relatively well, even if they are bad at supplying stuff. What I'm really hoping for is that they get a turn on X-Wing. I don't know why, but something in my guts tells me there may be changes coming for X-Wing for some foreseeable future.
I mean, what type of change do you for X-Wing? Is it because of the way the community seems to be with X-Wing, which seems to be a bit of an arms race, doesn't it? Of
Maybe that, or even just simply trying to reset the community in a way that says, okay, to at least to admit to some parts, to say, okay, we fucked up the release of version 2, here's how we are going forward. But I've never felt that they've properly addressed the elephant in the room and simply went with it.
Yeah, because I did get, and I purchased the starter set that came out with Force Awakens. So you got the Poe Dameron, you got the Poe Dameron with that, and I got that set because I was going to start playing it. But then, after reading and seeing what was going on in the community, it did for me seem to be casual games just didn't seem, shall we say, casual, if you know what I mean. It's more the fact that it seems to be like there is that power creep of if you don't come with a specific card.
Problem from the very beginning. When this first kit came out, there was the base kit with the X-Wing and 2 TIE fighters, and the first few expansions were 2 different variants of TIE fighters and 2 different variants of X-Wing, A-Wing, and I think the Y-Wing. So there were 3 ship types on each side, so this was a very small thing, and games didn't tend to be that power gamed. And after they started selling miniatures with cards you only could get with 1 special miniature, but you could equip that card on other ships to make them even more powerful, then the feature creep struck in, and we had this very annoying state of pay to win, because if you had the money you simply bought the stuff you wanted. And
I looked at that, and I don't think that's the same with Legion.
At least not currently. There's always the possibility that they succumb to that, but I hope they don't. And I think there was a discussion on Discord not so long ago when somebody said that some games rules are primarily focused on competitive play, which I think is a valid point, and I think you can make those games out quite easily. That being said, nobody forces one to play competitively. But the problem is, if you live in a small area with only a small set of gamers, if you're the only one trying to play casual, you're into a world of hurt if you really care about winning.
Yeah, they do. They sell the card packs, but the stuff that you get in the card packs predominantly is what you get in the starter sets. There are some additions, but a vast majority of the cards in the separate packs that you can buy.
Yeah, the starter set, the card pack Dutch just mentioned in chat, was released with the Clone Wars set, so that people who at that point would jump into the game would have the possibility to have all cards available. And I think to this day FFG has stayed true to their statement that you don't need to buy Unit A to have an upgrade card that would be possible to have in Unit B. Every card that would be possible to attach to your unit would somehow end up in your possession anyhow. I think putting aside their lack of resupplyment is they really stuck to that and made it work somehow.
And you know, and I think, you know, when we sort of look at the licenses that are there, you know, you've got Legion, you've got X-Wing, and even Armada. Now, I've never touched Armada, and I don't know, have you played Armada or?
I didn't play, but I've got some friends who played it, and I've looked over their shoulders, and it's a game.
yeah. But does that then fall into when we were talking about the possibility of a 6mm or a small scale large battle version sort of fall within that Armada realm?
Possibly the
sort of,
scale is more or less already at that point, even though
Yeah.
the ships aren't really to scale to each other, simply because it's not possible to do so.
Yeah. So I was just thinking from point of view of having, like with 28mm, we have our ship-to-ship combat version. It's for the dogfighting. We have the large fleet battle version, which is Armada. Then, is that what they are then looking at with in terms of a new game, or are they even thinking about it? And this might be another one, is revisiting Imperial Assault.
As I don't think they're going to revisit Imperial Assault, because that's more or less a board game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think board games will stay with FFG completely, simply because
Mm-hmm.
it's their core set. I'm trying to look. I think Panzer was mentioning it earlier, that he thinks that they could go round the way of Marvel Crisis Protocol as a subsystem. That surely is a possibility, but I don't think they will, because they just released the skirmish rules for Legion, which are more
Yeah.
or less the same scale.
That's an interesting one from Dutch about a Frostgrave. I'll get my teeth back in. Star Wars style, it's
I couldn't really say anything about that, because I've never played Frostgrave or took too much time into reading it. Only saw some things on the interwebs.
yeah. But I'm thinking from point of view just generically where their heads may be at is it probably might be, I think, a large skirmish game. I think a large battle game, I think, might be where their heads at, because then it gives them that breadth of having, you've got your skirmish with your 20, like I said, with your 28mm. So that could be the small unit stuff, right the way through to doing where it allows people to do large battles like the Attack of Geonosis, the Siege of Mandalore, things like that.
I think the highest probability on this is actually this 6mm mass battle or 10mm mass battle, something along those lines. But as Dutch just suggested, and I had that thought that moment too, would be some kind of non-hero RPG style progression system, so that you have a small skirmish like Gorka Morka did. You have your battle force, and you're doing campaigns, and you earn credits, and you can level up your units, something along those lines.
Yeah, it's a bit same way that they're doing Warcry and the other one as well, Necromunda and things.
The main advantage to that would be they could reuse the miniatures from Legion and wouldn't have to retool everything. So they could introduce new models that are being sold to either side of the game, so either Legion players or whatever this next game could be. If they start a complete new scale, it's a complete bigger investment. I don't know if that's financial viable at this point.
Yeah, I suppose it depends upon what it is that they're bringing in the pipeline, because we know what's due in the terms of the Legion minis. So we know we're getting Lando and Callus. We know we're getting specialist clones and specialist separatist droids at the beginning of the year. So that's two of the sets. They said, I think, in their call from Gen Con, that classic players, as they call them, or the original trilogy players, would be very happy. So does that mean that the players like yourself that play that part of the game are going to be getting another collection of minis after the Lando and Callus? And what are they saving up for come Gen Con next year for their release? Is there going to be a big release? Is there going to be a big announcement?
I think the suggestion Lorna just gave in chat is something to think about, a campaign system that incorporates all three existing gaming system in some way. I think similar to what Warhammer did with the Armageddon campaign back in the day.
Hmm.
That could be nice, and I think if the team at Atomic Mass Games can get their organized play together, then I think that would be a fun thing, but I don't think that's a product per se. I think that could be some kind of marketing ploy leading up to some big release or starting with a big release.
Hmm. I know there's a lot of fan-created sort of campaign rules out there, especially for X-Wing, and then there's the one from Zopasoap, which I sent you through to have a look at, Tim, for doing Legion, and they haven't done the other battles yet, but that's like a 3-battle campaign that they're doing for the attack on Geonosis, which is an interesting, picking one of the battles and running it as a going concern across 3 sort of story missions. So I think there's a lot of community input for doing campaigns, and it's something I've thought about, and maybe it's something we throw open to the community on Beasts of War, within a forum thread, ideas for running a Star Wars campaign, put them here, and we can see, as a community, what we could come up with. It might be worth, putting that call out. We're all Star Wars fans here, so we all enjoy the systems and seeing what we can come from it, create from it.
I think even if they don't call for it, a simple search on FacePage and other sites and forums is showing that there are a fuck ton of people really invested in this game. Speaking of Star Wars Legion, and I think they really, really should gobble up some of these ideas, or at least take the inspiration and maybe run with those.
Yeah. I am surprised with the popularity of Legion as is, that they haven't come down large, or the mouse hasn't come down large with the ban hammer on all of these, like Skullforge and all of the other sites that are dropping STL files.
That's a thing I'm baffled by since they started. There are things that are similar, like from Westphalia, the medieval version of the Mandalorian, which is clearly an homage, but it's so unique that I think they couldn't get it down even if they wanted. But some of the 3D files are so blatantly a rip-off and a carbon copy of existing designs. It's scary.
It is, and granted,
but maybe for some reason there's a lawyer doing also the math and saying, okay, we could shut them down, but if we shut them down, the people will not buy more Legion minis, but possibly play less Legion. So currently, with a limited range that there is officially, I think it's still a win-win if they simply ignore it and maybe at a later date sometime put down a cease and desist letter, and then suddenly they are gone.
Because there is a large, the latest ones, which is the one that we had a chat about on Sunday, which was the Creator Dragon mini that's going to be 3D printed, and it's 3 times or 4 times the height of a Legion mini, I think.
And also, I think the main difference is there are a lot of STL files available for free.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's much leverage legally if you create something and give it away for free, as long as people don't start making money off it.
Yeah, there's I think someone creates a 3D file of the Mandalorian and gives it away for free.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
He created it himself. There's the visual reference, but the design has been around for ages, and people don't get sued because they did a painting of something.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, but it just seems with the amount of files out there, especially on those specific sites that are selling the STL files or selling the actual 3D print, that the mouse hasn't turned up with its big large teeth and massive hammer and went no, so
maybe we're just plain lucky and they're too busy shoveling money.
Disney are too busy shoveling money into their coffers than the way it goes. But does this then here's a one which might be an interesting thing from them, with Atomic Mass Games having the license, and we know that they're still doing the role-playing stuff. Does this mean then that they may start doing packs of minis for the role-playing? So you could actually, not so much the way that WizKids do it for D&D. So, you've still got the quality of the miniature and probably unpainted miniatures still that, that you use in Legion. And I know people use Legion minis in their role-playing, but start doing, shall we say, here's a 4 custom pack of, Jedi. Here's a 7-pack of additional Stormtroopers, for role players who want to use miniatures, to start doing miniatures. Is that something they could possibly branch into? Because that would, especially linked in with their role-playing arm.
It's a possibility, but I don't think they will.
Hmm.
And if they will, I'm tempted to say they would rather get out the old molds from Imperial Assault and sell those to role-playing people.
Yeah, because they're more customized, aren't they? They're the more stylized.
Yeah, and
in their views.
I don't think that since FFG had started producing the new minis on sprues, I don't think it's very viable for someone to break out the minis and sell them in separate packs.
Yeah.
The Imperial Assault minis were separate from the beginning, so that would be a more easily distributable pack. But it's an option. I give them that. But since the role-playing studio has also been sourced to another sister company, we just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, because the role-playing books are as scarce as they're more scarce than the actual minis for Legion. I was lucky enough to pick up 2 of the ones that I've been after for about 12 months, and that's the Clone Wars 2-pack they did, the Rise of the Separatists, the Fall of the Republic, because they're really good source books from me, because I currently run Star Wars for a group on a Monday evening using the old West End Games system.
Toros just asked about a Star Wars fighting fantasy book. I'd love that.
There was some a long time ago. There
Probably
was also
unobtainable and very expensive by now.
Yes, and I think I've got the other ones that there was the lightsaber dueling books. I don't know if you ever saw them.
No.
Basically, it was a book, and you had a book, your opponent had a book, and you would pick a page, say, for how you were, going to hit them, and your opponent would pick their move, and you would reveal them. There was a lightsaber one, and there was a ship-to-ship combat one as well.
Sounds interesting. I think the weirdest part of Star Wars memorabilia I have is the Star Wars challenges from Lenovo, the augmented reality set. I don't know. Have you ever played that?
I haven't. It doesn't sound familiar.
Basically, Lenovo brought out a headset where you put in your phone and a small Bluetooth button you put on the ground and a lightsaber hilt, and you saw your room, but there, like the holograms from Star Wars, there were things blended in. So that's where the artificial reality comes from. And let me tell you, that is fun as fuck. It works great. And since it's an official licensed product made by a reputable company, that thing simply looks great if put on a shelf. At some point, I'm going to have to make a short video showing that thing off. It's just hilarious. Sadly, it's out of production and you can't get it anymore, and that's the only reason why I've got it, because the local supermarket had some in store and sold them for a cheap €10.
That's what you want, isn't it? Something cheap and things. So I mean,
I was literally doing my weekly groceries, saw the pack, and I thought to myself, this can't be real.
I've just sent you a link to what was called the lightsaber dueling pack, and that was the book that they did, and there was 2 of them. and that's a PDF version because there is a website out there where you can actually download PDFs of virtually all of the West End games. Bits and bobs.
A weird one.
Yeah.
I'd say this would have been probably a lot easier if you made a card game from it.
Probably. I mean, sitting on my shelf up in the top there is I've got the two of the. Did I have the 3 board games? I've got 2 of the board games, I think, as well. Oh, they're in the thing. So I got the Assault on Hoth, Escape the Death Star, board games that they did. That West End Games did. So it's just getting a hold of.
Escape the Death Star. I also have, but they were released with Parker on my side.
Yeah, these were direct from Wedge when West End Games actually owned them. So it's interesting the amount of memorabilia that seems to be lurking out there still within the community and things people remember. And when you look at, say, something like The Mandalorian, which is it's been, and you can see why some people scream at it going it's all fan service. Well, who else is it going to be for?
People were thirsty for a decent, well-made movie or series or anything, because they felt so, well, dare I say, betrayed by the sequel trilogy, which was in part utter shite.
I know I'm probably the minority that I actually enjoyed them, but I'm of the opinion,
Yeah, you can enjoy them, but like the Solo movie, they didn't need to have the Star Wars logo on them.
True.
For some parts of it, at
Very
least.
true. Very true. But I'm of the opinion, and that being the age I am, that Star Wars isn't written for me. No, it's written for the age I was in 1977. Yeah, it's written for that little boy, So
that's the weird state I was also in when I first saw Episode 1 in the cinema. I was, I think, around the age of 20, and I thought, yeah, this is a nice movie, but it didn't capture me in that amount I thought it would. And with the later releases, it got, I wouldn't say worse, but there is some age gap showing.
Yeah.
Because, let's be honest, Star Wars is a fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
It literally starts with in a galaxy far, far away in a time long, long ago. So, who are we kidding? It's for children.
It is, yes. I mean, what's quite amusing is a couple of my players. Well, one of my players for Monday nights hadn't even heard of Caravan of Courage or Battle for Endor.
Oh, I saw Battle for Endor in the movies when I was 8. I loved it to bits. It's a glorious children's movie.
Yes, and also the Ewoks and Droids cartoon series.
Oh yes, the horribly animated, terrible voice acting at part.
Which you can find on YouTube.
Oh, don't go there. Not today.
And Caravan of Courage is on YouTube, and Battle for Endor is on YouTube as well.
The only way you're getting the Ewok movies in Germany is a double DVD. You can't get them single. No.
With Wilfred Brimley as things, and that's where the Blurg came from as well, which is interesting.
So many crossovers.
There is, but I mean, there's a lot out there for them to, shall we say, dip into. But going back to the core topic of this with Asmodee and atomic mass games, as I said, I'm optimistic in the fact that that it probably won't have any effect, but hopefully with the way that Atomic Mass seem to be getting their product to shelves, that it may have a little more impetus on Asmodee sorting their crap out together when it comes to restocking, things. But I do have a little concern: is this move going to affect the releases that are due? So that's the Anakin Skywalker release and the release within the first quarter of next year, which is the clone specialists.
I don't think they will be impacted very much, because just today I got an email on the subject from Asmodee Germany, and the Anakin Skywalker and Darth Maul are up for grabs.
Is there a date on them, or is they I think it's the end of the month still. I think it was the 27th was still the
trouble is Asmodee Germany only gives out a short-term notice with
right.
You can now pre-order, and then usually within 2 weeks stock is gone.
Yeah, it's the same in the UK. I was lucky enough to get a set of ARCs, and I had to use on tabletop to get my ARCs. I was lucky enough to get the ARC troopers from there. Everywhere else I went to, they'd sold out on pre-orders.
Yeah. As James Cup simply just said, yeah, Clone Wars Armada release is out too. I think they put it out. Now, I think there's hope always for improvement, even on large companies like Asmodee, Fantasy Flight, and Atomic Mass. But well, I wouldn't hold my breath.
No, I mean, I'm not. I'm a Star Wars Legion player. Holding my breath, I would probably be blue in the face and keel over and be dead by the time.
Yeah, that's very much
by the time
possible.
I get a set of Phase 2 clones, or
The thing I'm currently waiting on is an official release of the limited edition Luke Skywalker in his flight suit, which seems to be out in the US already.
It is.
Asmodee Germany said that they would announce it properly to say how you can obtain them. And since they haven't shown up anywhere else in the whole shop system of theirs, I'm guessing they're still somehow trying to get it. I don't know. I haven't seen it anywhere else.
No, I've not seen it. I mean, the one that before we started, I was sort of scanning through YouTube looking at some stuff, and what on my feed popped up was the podcast. Is it the something Scoundrels? And they were talking. Now, they had recorded their podcast before this announcement, so they weren't covering it, but they'd mentioned something, and I think it's the alternative Sculpt Kenobi.
The one from Essen.
Might be the Essen one. That's hitting eBay or places for $300.
Yeah, that's totally the case. Same with the Darth Vader from, was it Gen Con previous year?
Was it Gen Con, or was it the one for Celebration?
I can't tell. There was, I think it was Celebrations. There was the Darth Vader one, and the thing is, that's a point where I think FFG totally fucked up. I can understand that they do a limited run miniature, but to make it a regional limited run miniature in a game they are trying to sell globally is so bad. And I remember the Darth Vader getting sold for $300-400 too. And yes, if it's only available at a convention in the US and you need to pay your flight and you need to pay your hotel, $300 suddenly gets cheap in a way, if you look at it from that perspective.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you got yourself a 32mm high piece of plastic.
And you probably still have to pay for it anyway, because you've gone to the convention. It's not free. They're not giving them away free at the conventions. You'll be purchasing them at the convention, probably for a premium price.
It's ridiculous. And same with the Obi-Wan Kenobi alternative sculpt, which is mental.
Yeah, and I can imagine the Luke Skywalker becoming the same.
No, the thing is, the Luke Skywalker is set to be released worldwide, which Fantasy Flight stated with the release notes. So that's why I'm a bit baffled that it's out at some retailers in the US already, and no word until now again from the German side.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I didn't know if it was released worldwide. I thought it was just going to be a retail special as well, but I could misheard, what was being said. It's just
We can simply take a quick peek. I think
Yeah.
it isn't that far away on the news page. No, that's X-Wing. Why would I go to X-Wing?
because you're longing for the time when.
No, I simply
Yes,
thought the news header would be directed to Legion, but it wasn't. Oh, come on, load faster, you stupid little thing.
Have you fed the hamster in the wheel?
Oh, the hamster's fine.
There he is on the side there.
So there we are. Soon at your local retailer. Will be available for limited time in the United States. Expansion will be through local game stores. For those who live outside the United States, look for information on distribution in your area soon.
Cool.
And this news part was from the 26th of October, so roughly 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. It's a nice sculpt. I must admit it.
And
it's a very nice sculpt.
Personally, I like Luke in this setup the most because it's he's more soldier than a stupid snobby little farm boy or something.
I like that one, and I do like the black suited Luke as well. I quite like
the Return of the Jedi one.
The Return of the Jedi robed Luke as well. I think that's quite a nice one. I'd be interested to see if when we were talking about earlier about possibilities of where they might go, is doing a Jedi Master Luke. I think that would be a nice one as well.
Well, that could be on the plate if they actually go, as we described earlier, with the sequel trilogy and do a set on those. There could be an aged Han or maybe a dead Han. Battlefield Casualty Han.
Yeah, I was got Battlefield Casualty Han with a lightsaber through the chest,
Yeah, something like that. And as James in chat just said, it's best to pre-order things the moment they are announced if your local shop supports it. I did that as long as I had my friendly local game store. I did that. Currently now I'm stuck on online stores making those possible.
Yeah, I do that as well. I've got there's one in the UK called Darkstar, which I do recommend for anybody that's
sorry, Panzer. Spoiler, Han dies.
Oh, did you see? Oh, you might not have seen. Sort of a little aside is there was a little controversy around the second episode of The Mandalorian from the artwork that was released at the end of the episode where they show
Series
the
1
concept. Series 2, episode 2. So at the end of the season when they run the credits, they show the concept art, don't they? And there's the scene of the female mechanic sitting in the booth.
Yes.
And above her head, to the sort of the left of her head, you can see a blast mark.
Wow.
So the fandom got up in arms, so to speak, with themselves because it's the whole hand shot first argument seemed to rear its head over a piece of concept art. It was like, oh, come on.
I don't know even if that would be viable because if I'm not totally remembering this wrong, even in the first release when Han shot first, I think Grievous still shot. But I could be wrong.
No, in the original trilogy, Han shoots first. Greedo doesn't even shoot. It was in the special editions where they put in the Greedo shooting first, and then Han. And then they put in that mark above into the wall. But yeah, it turned up in on the fandom online of like the argument of, well, not so much the argument, but the old discussion: who shot first? We all know as Star Wars fans, Han shot first. Greedo did not fire back.
I would even go out and say, whoever did that concept art probably knew very well what he or she was doing and intentionally tried to ruffle some feathers.
Let's troll a Star Wars fan,
Yeah.
shall we?
I've got this once in a lifetime opportunity. It's never said that this is the cantina. It's just highly suggestive, but it's never said. Let's just see how far we can push the envelope before the first fanboys lose their mind.
Yeah, exactly. And as we know, Star Wars fans, or some Star Wars fans, not anybody here, but some Star Wars fans are very
Let's not call them fans. Let's call them what
delicate
they are.
flowers.
Fanboys.
Yeah.
Fanboys, regardless of their gender, fanboys are the worst people of everything. Even cultists can't hold a candle to them, James. Cultists at least are honest with being cultists.
Unless you're part of the watch.
Could be. No, it's just... Yeah. So I think we can summarize as we are hopeful that Atomic Mass Games takes the next step and simply improves everything without ruining anything.
Yeah.
And maybe we get an epic version of fleet battles. I'd really like that.
I mean, not fleet battles. We always have epic fleet battles. You mean
mass battles.
Perhaps as a community, yeah, we should start sending Atomic Mass little hints going, did you know if you do an epic version, it will sell? Have you thought about doing an epic version?
Yeah. Do you have time to talk about a Lord and Savior 6mm mass battle war game? we can use hex spaces.
Panzer Kaput is definitely in for that 10mm and 15mm.
Yeah. I'm guessing 15 would be a bit too large for actual mass battle games, but 10mm I can see happening. And at that scale, an 8080 wouldn't be too big.
No, it wouldn't be actually. It would probably. You could probably do it the same scale as what scale is BattleTech?
Oh God, if I know, 6 or 8.
Yeah. Probably about that scale. I think you're probably looking at for the ground units.
If you go for a bit larger scale, I think that would be totally fine. Especially if you don't get too anal about the relative size of vehicles to each other. If you're keeping the ATST and AT80 and other big vehicles a bit smaller than they should be according to scale, I think that would be very fine.
And I think the tables would look impressive as well.
Yeah, you really could, and you wouldn't need a large table to make some decent gaming. That's the point I really like about BattleTech. You have a relatively small map, and you still get a proper game out of it.
Yeah, you do. I used to play BattleTech heavily, and it was fun. I used to run a star of clan mechs and 3 lances of inner sphere mechs, so a platoon of inner sphere. So yes, it was quite fun.
To not get Panzer crying again, I will not reach behind me and get my clan invasion box up again.
What's in that? Is that the sort of the heavy invasion box, or is it just a mixture?
No, the Catalyst Games have done a Kickstarter.
Yeah, I know they did Kickstarter, so I was just wondering.
And then there's an extension box with with some mechs in it, and then some additional mechs.
Because I remember the original, I think the original 5 mechs Ral Partha did in metal were Mad Cat or Timberwolf, Daisho, Loki. What else? The 30-ton scout mech, and I can't remember what it was called. And there was another one as well. And basically, you got 5 clan mechs when the clans first turned up.
After chat is going mental, here's the box, clan invasion, and there are.
I'm just looking for Panzers.
Five mechs are in here.
Yeah.
The Grendel, the Timber, the Executioner, the Nova, and the Adder, and 2 units of Elementals.
I know Daisho, because we did have a Daisho as well at one point, which was the 100-ton.
They did release, or are going to release in a second wave, additional Star Lances as packs. So there is much more coming.
Yeah, it was good fun. I think, I mean, I picked up from I picked up the new version of BattleTech for the PC, with all of the expansions. I've got them now, and then in the last expansion, because it's not getting any more stuff from Mad Hat Games, I think it is they brought in my favorite mech, which I have in metal, sitting on my desk, ready to be painted at some point, in the Marauder, which I think's a lovely mech. Yes, they're very nice.
So this is simply the Clan Invasion box, but of course, as any wargamer of who's worth his powder, I didn't only go with a core pledge. So. And this is a fun thing. I think this could potentially make people go out and buy too much stuff because they got random mechs.
Oh.
You got salvage boxes, which is in itself is a great name, I think, for a collectible thingamajig. You've got
yeah, that's just bad.
Legendary salvage boxes, and this one is a thing that I was actually proud of because I just read the novel where she is very prominent. Natasha Kerensky's mech.
Oh. That's the Daesh. That's 110.
That's a Daishi Direwolf Widowmaker.
Direwolf, yes, I thought so.
From Clan Wolf.
Yes. Yes, because she did return black to her clan.
And those books I just finished reading before the pledge level arrived. And this, to be honest, is my favorite. The Urban Mech.
The Urban Mech.
I just love this little ball, and I'm heavily tempted to paint him R2D2.
Yes, Tauros, she did have a Warhammer before she returned back to the clans.
When she was with Wolf.
When she was the Black Widow section was with Jamie Wolf and Wolf's Dragoons. I quite enjoyed Jamie Wolf's mech, actually, the Archer, which was quite a nice mech to run as well.
Tauros says clans ruined BattleTech. Well, if they have ruined BattleTech, why is it still around? And why did this Kickstarter go so well? But that's for a discussion on another time.
It is, isn't it?
It's completely another universe, another scale. I think we said all we wanted to say about this very surprising act of changing of heads.
Yeah, changing of the guard, shall we say.
I don't think anybody, really nobody, expected something like this, at least from what I have seen on reactions from the industry and other YouTubers and Twitch streamers. There is always the, what the fuck did just happen?
Yeah, I think it I saw it yesterday and it was like, what? It was a big shock, I think,
The funny thing is, the one Monday I go to bed early in the whole fucking year, they drop a bomb like this, and I'm not there to get on it immediately. I was literally looking on my PC this morning at around 6 a.m., reading your messages, reading the messages from other people, seeing the small flood of notifications from Discord and going, what the hell happened?
Yeah. It was a little bit of a shock, I think, and it has taken a lot of people by surprise. But,
Though, to be honest, I think this is the better way to do it, because if they would have announced some things like this in advance or hinted at them, speculations would have gone wild again.
Oh. The internet would have lost its proverbial mind, I think. Or as we said, all the little fanboys would have gone, "Oh, my game's dead." No.
Yeah, or even worse, there would be expectations put in place by vocal minorities, and when they are not met, there would be a great howling and teeth gnashing.
Lord, what's the quote from Star Wars? A million voices suddenly cried out in terror.
Yeah, very much that. Yeah, Panzer, I think if we would have had our session of Call of Cthulhu just yesterday, as we usually have, I think I would have had to stop the session there and then. Simply because reasons. Well.
But I mean, before we finish up, I think, because it has been, it's 90 minutes, and I know you have a bed to go to.
Oh, not 90 minutes yet, but we are shortly over an hour, and I think there's not too much to be said about this topic anymore.
I think so, but I think before we go, we need to plug our podcast.
Oh, of course we have to plug our podcast. For all you sods out there on the chat who haven't heard, we do a podcast called Imperial Interlude, on which we discuss all things from a galaxy far, far away. And currently we are discussing Season 2 of The Mandalorian, and we don't do spoiler-free reviews. So if you join us there, be aware there will be spoilers aplenty.
The first episode, Dutch, we recapped the first season of The Mandalorian as well, so you know.
The podcast that keeps getting blocked. No, that was just the first episode, Taurus, and for what miracle reason they redacted there. So
yes.
The episode is back on with all it is.
Yes, with all it is, and we go into great lengths about this week's episode, which as we sort of wax lyrical about was very fun.
And Dutch, you don't need to hate us. We hate us ourselves plenty enough. So, Ralph, I thank you for jumping in on this very short notice topic.
More than happy to join in at any time.
Yeah, and let's just hope Jerry gets better, so we have him on the weekend and the XLBS, because we can't have an XLBS without Jerry, can we now?
No, we can't.
That
Definitely
would be a very, very boring XLBS. So, we will hear each other again on Sunday when we record the next episode of the Imperial Interlude podcast, available on many occasions, mainly Anchor FM, YouTube, and you can also find it on, what's that face? This weird musical station thing? Spotify, yes. Not yet on iTunes for some reason, but Apple isn't too fast, as we know. So, from me, it's goodbye. Say goodbye, Ralph.
Say goodbye, Ralph.
Bye.
Bye.